in our world today, all over the place where we have messed up priorities. Our world today, do you realize there's probably more rights for animals than there is for humans? Any day you want to, you can go out and kill a baby, unborn. But God forbid you shoot an eagle. We will put you in prison for that. You mess with any animal out there, I mean, there's going to be hundreds of groups on you. Nobody is up, nobody gets alarmed when there's death in our streets. So, well, it's just another death, oh well, no big deal. We're just desensitized to humanity, and yet we place priority on animals. Now, the Torah is clear to say, yes, we should care for animals, and we should treat them with a semblance of respect, but not over human beings. Well, we could spend a lot of time on that one. Yes?
I'm hearing that theme coming over and over that we're doing right now in the Old Testament. I hear them say, we are going to. It's not, we sought the Lord is waiting.
Right.
Our nation's doing that now too.
Right. They're doing this unilaterally. Yeah. By the way, I want to make this statement. And I have to be careful how I state this, because I am a Zionist and I support Israel. So, prefacing that. But I also realize this, that the current leadership of Israel is not looking to God for direction. They're looking to military, they're looking to the U.S., they're looking to allies, they look to a lot of other things, but you don't hear them saying, we are trying to seek God, and we're trying to do the righteous thing because the Bible says to. That's not where they're at. By the way, neither are our leaders. Okay? That's not where we're at. So I can't take the millennial view that I have of the theocracy of God, and that he will rule and reign in a kingdom, and take that and put it back onto the current Israel today and say that that's what they're doing today. I think a lot of times that's what people do. And so then we idealize Israel, because we want to take this over here in the future and put it back, put it into the present. Having been there, having worked with the IDF, I know that their leaders and their military are not looking to God for help.
That's not entirely true, but there was a letter that one of the commanders wrote to his troops acknowledging the God of Israel.
Sure, I'm not saying that there's not individuals. I'm saying in the big scope of the picture. In the big scope of the picture, not in the little details.
It's secular government.
It's a secular government. They're not looking to God and going, I don't hear Netanyahu stepping up and saying, we believe that we are fulfilling a destiny that God has for us, or anything like that. And I listen to their other leaders, I don't hear that as well, nor I hear their militaries. Now, you're right, there may be a person here or there that is righteous and that does want to do what's right. They're few and far between compared to the bigger picture. But you're right, there are a few here and there.
And I think that viewpoint is changing, though.
That may be. It may be.
And the reason is that a lot of the intellectual people that are coming into Israel today are bringing their messianic viewpoint.
Sure. Yeah, that's coming. I mean, yeah, just right now, the numbers are such that it's not the case, but it may be someday, yes.
They show the IDF soldiers being led in prayer by their message.
Sure. Oh yeah, I'm not saying that there's not, I'm not saying that there's not.
The people, there are people.
Right. At large, the government at large, not in the specifics of every detail, but in the bigger picture, the government isn't looking to God and saying we want God to do everything for us, or we want to submit to Him. That's in the bigger picture of things. So I realize that we're dealing with a secular state. I realize I'm dealing with a secular state in my own country. All right. So, having said that, I support Zion and I support Israel, but realize that every decision they make, like the decisions my own country makes, aren't perfect. And there are times where they do things that are not defensible, and that as a democracy they have to deal with. Then I look at my own country. my own country has done some things that I'm not very proud of. Okay? So, let's go back. We can say American Indians, we broke every treaty we had with them. African Americans, we messed up there mightily. How about this one? I had one in my classes last week. Japanese Americans. That we put in internment camps. And we weren't killing them, but we were taking their property away from them.
They lost everything.
They lost everything.
They lost it, they treated the Irish.
Right. So we've had our history isn't pristine. Okay? For all of the democracy that we have, and I like a democracy, it has its flaws.
Hey, we got the worst government ever, except for all the other ones.
Yeah, I agree. But we always have room for improvement, and that's the key. Now look what he says here. But you're right, whoever said it earlier, these people were not asking God for direction. And look what they say. Verse 17, but we ourselves will be armed, ready to go before the children of Israel. Before the children of Israel. Moses corrects that. Look what he says. He says, then Moses said to them, verse 20, if you do this thing, if you arm yourselves before the Lord. And then 7 times in this text, from that point forward, 7 times he says, before the Lord. Before the Lord. By the end of this chapter, he says 7 times, before the Lord. He corrects their order. No, build houses for your children and build places for your livestock. Your priorities are messed up. And you're not going to go out before the children of Israel. You're going out before the Lord. We used to sing a song, in my days growing up in church. Had some good theology to it, which was, be careful, O eye, what you see, for the Father up above is looking down in love. God sees everything. He sees everything. It's all before the Lord. So 7 times Moses says, this is before the Lord. Mifnei Adonai. All the way through this chapter. Now, continue on. Go with me to verse 38. Note this in chapter 33, verse 38. It says, then Aaron the priest went up to Mount Hor at the command of the Lord and died there in the 40th year after the children of Israel had come out of the land of Egypt on the first day of the 5th month. Aaron was 123 years old when he died on Mount Hor. Now, hold on to this. Aaron's the high priest. Okay? He's going to die. Remember what we said a couple weeks back. Aaron's one of those guys that in the scripture, he skates. He kind of skates. You know what I mean when I say skates? He kind of gets by. I mean, golden calf. Yeah, anybody else got to hit the spike button. And yet you have Aaron who helps build the golden calf. He helps cast the golden calf. And he gets away with it. I say he gets away with it. You know why he got away with it? The text tells us, Deuteronomy says he got away with it because God looked at Moses, and on a Moses account, God allowed his brother to live. Sometimes the scriptures, I'm going to double back on this, sometimes the righteousness of one person, hold on to the thought here, sometimes the righteousness of one person can be attributed to another person and be accredited to them. Does that sound familiar? So God looked at Moses and said, Moses is a righteous man. And because of Moses' righteousness, I'm going to let Aaron, I'm not going to do as much to Aaron as I could do. And that's his older brother. Now, go with me to chapter 34. Chapter 34. He gives the boundaries of the land. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, command the children of Israel and say to them, when you come to the land of Canaan, this is the land that shall fall to you as an inheritance, the land of Canaan to its boundaries. Your southern border shall be from the wilderness of Zin along the border of Edom. Then your southern border shall extend eastward to the end of the Salt Sea. Your border shall turn from the southern side of the ascent of Akavim, continue to Zin, and be on the south of Kadesh Barnea. Then it shall go out to Hazar Adar, and continue to Azman. The border shall turn from Azman to the brook of Egypt, which I believe is not the Nile, but the Wadi el-Arish, and it shall end at the sea. As for your western border, you shall have the great sea for a border. This shall be your western border. And this shall be your northern border. From the great sea you shall mark out your border line to Mount Hor. From Mount Hor you shall mark out your border to the entrance of Hamath. Then the direction of the border shall be toward Zedad. The border shall proceed to Ziphron, and it shall be at Hazar Enan. This shall be your northern border. Then you shall mark out your eastern border from Hazar Enan to Shaphan. The border shall go down from Shaphan to Riblah on the east side of Ain. The border shall go down and reach to the eastern side of the Sea of Kinneret. The border shall go down along the Jordan, and it shall end at the Salt Sea. This shall be your land with its surrounding boundaries. By the way, if you look at this boundaries, it goes all the way up into what's now Iraq and Iran. And it goes all the way down and basically takes in the Sinai Peninsula. So it's a lot of land. It's much more than what Israel has today. It's much more. Okay, as far as what God is telling them that He's giving them.
Does it go to the Nile?
No, it goes. There's a brook called Wadi el-Arish that's on the. If you look today, what's called the Gaza Strip. If you go to the southernmost edge of the Gaza Strip, that's where the Wadi I can show you on a map. It's called Wadi el-Arish, and it's the place where they believe the border is for this land. That's the river of Egypt. A lot of people think the river of Egypt was the Nile, but it's actually this Wadi, and so I'll show you that on the map. But it's a good portion of land. It's all today what you call the Gaza Strip, all the Sinai Peninsula, a lot of land. Which is dry most of the time, yes. Now, we've talked about this before. So this is the land that belongs to Israel today. Chapter 35. The Lord spoke to Moses in the plains of Moab by the Jordan across from Jericho, saying, command the children of Israel that they give the Levites, now look at this, the Levites cities to dwell in from the inheritance of their possession. And you shall also give the Levites common land around the cities. Now they don't get a tribal inheritance, the Levites don't. The nation of Israel, as a people, are supposed to supply them with food that they bring to the central sanctuary in Jerusalem. So one whole tribe is going to be cared for by the other 11 tribes. However, they're going to get land around the cities. Look what he says here. Then they shall have the cities to dwell in, and their common land shall be for their cattle, for their herds, and for all their animals. The common land of the cities which you will give the Levites shall extend from the wall of the city outward 1,000 cubits all around. And you shall measure outside the city on the east side 2,000 cubits, on the south side 2,000 cubits, on the west side 2,000 cubits, and on the north side 2,000 cubits. The city shall be in the middle. This shall belong to them as common land for their cities, for the cities. Now among the cities which you give to the Levites, now look at this, watch. You shall appoint 6 cities of refuge, to which a manslayer may flee, and to these you shall add 42 cities. So all the cities you will give to the Levites shall be 48. These you shall give with their common land. And the cities which you will give shall be from the possession of the children of Israel. And from the larger tribe you shall give many, from the smaller you shall give few. Each shall give some of its cities to the Levites, in proportion to the inheritance that each receives. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when you cross the Jordan into the land of Canaan, then you shall appoint cities to be cities of refuge for you, that the manslayer who kills any person accidentally may flee there. They shall be cities of refuge for you from the avenger, that is the Goel, that the manslayer may not die until he stands before the congregation in judgment. And of the cities which you give, you shall have 6 cities of refuge. You shall appoint 3 cities on this side of the Jordan, and 3 cities you shall appoint in the land of Canaan, which will be cities of refuge. These 6 cities shall be for the refuge of the children of Israel. Now look at this. For the stranger and for the sojourner among them, the foreigner, that anyone who kills a person accidentally may flee there. So people say, I hear this all the time, believe me. Well, the God of the Old Testament, here we go again. There's no grace there. There's just no grace. It's all law. Jesus, he's welcoming everybody. It's all grace with him. And I'm thinking to myself, hold on. I've just read here, there's 6 cities of refuge. That sounds like grace to me. If you accidentally kill someone, their family was supposed to pursue you in order to pursue justice. But if it was accidental, you can run to one of these cities of refuge and you get a fair trial, where the elders of that city, the Levites, listen to your case and they determine whether you are guilty or not. Now, if you're guilty, they can hand you over to the family of the member that you killed. However, if they deem you innocent, you get to stay in the city of refuge for the rest of your life. Now look what he says. Now watch this. This is fascinating. Verse 16. However, but if he strikes him with an iron implement so that he dies, he is a murderer. The murderer shall be put to death. And he goes through a list here of different types of ways of killing people. Okay? He says, I'm going to skip down, he says in verse 25, so the congregation shall deliver the manslayer from the hand of the avenger of blood, and the congregation shall return him to the city of refuge where he had fled, and he shall remain there until the death of the high priest who was anointed with the holy oil. Verse 28, but he should have remained in his city of refuge until the death of the high priest. But after the death of the high priest, the manslayer may return to the land of his possession. Let me get this straight. Everybody who is found guilty or who is not pursued has to stay for safety in the cities of refuge. But when the high priest dies, everybody in the cities of refuge are released. Whoever was high priest, when you came into the city of refuge, when that high priest dies, you're free. The death of a righteous man, a high priest, his death allows for everybody who's in the cities of refuge to go free. Does that sound like Messiah?
I think that's one of the stories they heard on the book of Revelation.
Yeah, exactly. When the high priest dies, everybody who's in the cities of refuge, who is guilty of unintentional death. You killed somebody, but it was unintentional. It was accidental. Didn't mean for it to happen. We have this all the time in our area. We have hunting accidents. People go out and they accidentally shoot somebody. Maybe the person they were actually going hunting with. That happens. And it's an accident. They didn't mean for it to happen. There was no malice of forethought. And they run to one of these cities of refuge. Then the family members, they ask for a trial. And the trial reveals it was an accident. Never meant for this to happen. Truly sorry. But you know what? You stay in that city of refuge for the rest of your life. But you're alive. Not a prison. You get to move along. You get to move about in that city. This is the closest Israel got to prisons. But you have to stay. If you leave the city of refuge, if you ever leave the city of refuge before the high priest dies, then you're fair game. Woe is you. But as long as you stay in the city, you're protected. Then the high priest dies. Everybody in these cities of refuge, they're all free. The death of a righteous man allows for the freedom of those who are guilty. We have it again. He says, and these things, verse 29, shall be a statute of judgment to you throughout your generations in all your dwellings. Look at verse 30. Whoever kills a person, the murderer shall be put to death on the testimony of witnesses. But one witness is not sufficient testimony against a person for the death penalty. Moreover, you shall not take ransom for the life of a murderer who is guilty of death, but he shall surely be put to death. And you shall take no ransom for him who has fled to the city of refuge, that he may return to dwell in the land before the death of the priest. So you shall not pollute the land where you are, for blood defiles the land. And no atonement can be made for the land, for the blood that is shed on it, except by the blood of him who shed it. Therefore, do not defile the land which you inhabit, in the midst of which I dwell. Wow. For I, the Lord, dwell among the children of Israel. Blood pollutes the land. If there's blood shed, it pollutes the land. So there's got to be atonement. Does anybody remember the quintessential example of this in the Torah? The sanctity of life. Anybody remember what we talked about as the quintessential example of this? Are you remembering?
Abortion.
Well, abortion is clearly in this category. I'm thinking of a particular example in the Torah where the sanctity of life comes in. Let me see if I can jog your memory. I think you'll remember once we start with this. What happens if we are walking in the field and we come upon a dead body? And we don't even know how. I'm saying, let's say any of us here, we're just walking along. We just happen to be out walking along. We're on one of these trails around here. And we walk along and we come on a dead body. What's our responsibility? What's our Torah responsibility? Well, to bury it for sure.
Go to the nearest city and tell the priest.
There you go. You got to go to the nearest city and tell the priest. You say, hey, we found a body. Now the priest goes out there, and actually, if it's, let's say there's a couple of cities that are close by, then the elders of those cities have to determine which city it's closest to. Because the judgment of God resides on the city corporate responsibility. We were talking about this last night. This one really bothers Americans because we're very, very individualistic. So this is why you have the Shema, Deuteronomy 6:4, and you, singular, shall love the Lord your God with all your heart. And then Deuteronomy 11 comes back and says, and you all collectively must do this. We're very, very Lone Ranger mentality. We like monasticism. The problem is, Lone Ranger and monasticism is not what God designed. He designed for each of us to live in community. You know why? Because community, we can help each other. We can correct each other. We can work together. Iron sharpening iron, hopefully. So, if there's a body found, then we have to determine what's the city closest. The elders of the city determine that, and then they have to offer a sacrifice because the blood of this individual, we don't know how they died. There's a gunshot wound. Now maybe, if there's a gun laying right beside it, maybe it was a suicide. We don't know. We don't know yet. But bottom line is, we have to determine how this person died. And we have to try to find out who did this to the best that we can. And there's blood guilt on the city that's closest until such time as we offer, the elders of that city offer a sacrifice on behalf of this person. That's the sanctity of life. That every life has dignity. By the way, I'm going to remind you of something that David Brogg said in his book. This comes back to our earlier discussion. Anytime you have a people group, doesn't matter what people group, throughout world history, anytime you have a people group where people group A think that they are above people group B, you will have either enslavement or genocide. That's the way it works. That's the way humanity works. Anytime a people group A think they're above people group B, this group A will genocide or enslave B. If we don't see each other like this, that we're equals, we have to enslave or genocide those we don't think are equal to us. Yes?
And that takes me back in the mind's eye to the earlier topics about the nations gathering And obviously our compassion for Israel and everything keeps us, if you had to pick a side, I would say I'm on Israel's side. But one must intellectually comprehend that the Palestinians and the Arabs and some of the people in Iraq in that zone right there have read the Bible as well.
Right.
And they realize that the Jewish people think they're above them.
Right.
And then the Jewish people are, in theory, going to just take up the whole world and rule it from Jerusalem. That scares the poop out of everybody else.
Right.
You know,
right.
then you look at those men, they're not led by the Holy Spirit, even the Torah portion thereof, and then you really start getting scary.
Yeah. Let me show you how. I want to give you just a little taste of how difficult this issue is. This is just a taste of how difficult this issue is, just so you get a picture of it. In 1948, when Israel became a state, you had a lot of Palestinians living there, Arab ethnicities living together. And by the way, there's still some cities today where Arabs and Israelis get together and they still live side by side. It can work. There were thousands, hundreds of thousands of refugees because Arab leaders told their people, you need to get out. Because Israel's probably going to try to mess with you, destroy you. That wasn't Israel's intent, but that's what they were told. And out of fear, many of them left. So in the current negotiations that have been going on over the last 20 to 30 years, you've had, one of the things that they say is, we want all refugees, all 1948 refugees, or their children, to be able to go back to their ancestral homes or their ancestral land. Okay? Pre-1948. To show you how complicated that is. Now imagine trying to get every one of those refugees back to their house or their land that they had before. Here's the problem with that. I mean, this is just one of the problems with that. Many of those houses and lands, if I were going to give it back to a pre-1948 Palestinian family, I would have to ask another Palestinian family to move out of that land or out of that house. Where's the win? How am I going to win in that situation? I'd have to say to a Palestinian family, I need you to move out of your home so another Palestinian family can move in. In many of these situations, that's what would have to happen if they wanted the same house or the same piece of land. That's how complicated this is. Now, do you think the people the Palestinians I asked to leave their house so another Palestinian family could move it back in their pre-1948 house would be happy with me? Probably not. And I'm not saying I blame them. But this is how incredibly complicated this gets. So I'm not, yeah.
There are a little over 6 million people in Israel. There are a little over 3 million Palestinians that claim return rights.
Yeah.
Think about the effect on that.
Yeah.
If they were to return,